Hey there, this is Jonah Falcon reporting to you from E3. Now, as I promised, I would recap all the conferences I went to. Right now, I'm in the cozy and sedate, for now, E3 media room. This is a place where only the media can go, and it also has free Wi-Fi, so I can upload it immediately. Anyways, a lot of stuff happened, and I know I introduced myself at the events, but I never really said what I thought of what happened. I was right on a lot of predictions. So, let's start with Electronic Arts. So, Titanfall 2, everybody knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was going to be multi-platform. It looks okay. The funny thing is that, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare seems to be aping from Titanfall. And I think that's why it's getting a lot of negative press. But the biggest thing for me, and the biggest thing for everybody, was that fact that it's going to be a single-player campaign, finally. Because, while there was a story in Titanfall, but it was sort of like Brink, it's sort of like in bits and pieces. And people just want to be able to play by themselves and do a campaign, a single-player campaign. There's a reason why these, a lot of these single-player, multiplayer-only games are games that are budget-level games, or free-to-play, sort of like Team Fortress 2, You got... In order to get people to really enjoy a $60 game, you really have to have a single-player campaign. And I think people are starting to understand that. Unlike John Riccitello's little screed a while ago that every EA game's going to have some sort of multiplayer. Yeah, that worked well, didn't it? And after John Riccitello was shit-canned, suddenly The Sims 4 was going to be single-player only. And Dragon Age Inquisition was a disaster because it started out as a multiplayer game, and then they decided to make it single player. So instead, you had a single player MMO, which did not work for me, especially with the boring combat, which I'm pretty sure would have been a lot more exciting if it been co-op multiplayer and everybody was fighting the same creatures at once. And they gave snippets of Andromeda. Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm excited for it, but I really want to see some gameplay. They did say what the plot was. I think everybody knew what the plot was. At least I guessed it, in that it was just a colony ship that was blasted off to another galaxy to avoid the Reapers. Is the last minute contingency plan. So that covers all of the endings of Mass Effect 3. Nothing that all the things that happen in Mass Effect 3 have nothing to do with these colonists blasting off into space. We saw an Asari who looked disturbingly like a serial killer. I don't know. Actually, I think I know what it is. This particular Asari actually looked male, which of course is impossible because the Asari are monogendered species and they're all resemble females. But this had a very male attack. It'll be interesting to see who the humans and I'm guessing Krogan and other species, and they're exploring new worlds. The worlds did look beautiful. I'm looking forward to that. And then, then you had Madden and FIFA, and it was like the Pele moment from last year. They gotta make a separate EA Sports. They gotta make a separate EA Sports. Sorry, I'm stumbling over this conference. Because really, when they brought in Pele and when they did the esports this time, and they went on about multiplayer and they went on about this and that, I really did not care. And a lot of people in the room did not care. Stop it. Just no more. And then they also announced their independent game imprint, which is EA Originals. And basically, they're doing what it's sort of like Vertigo for DC. In which they have independent games. They had an indie game. They had a mobile game division, and I don't know what happened to that. So I guess they're restarting the concept of an indie game division. One of the games they showed off was Fe, or it's Fe. I wonder if that has anything to do with. And they noted the success of Unraveled, and they decided, hey, Unraveled made money. Let's keep going with this. And they're pimping a game called Fe, which is your typical platformer actually it's an open world platformer, which is going to be interesting. And of course it looks beautiful, and I'm pretty sure it's going to have a heartbreaking ending like all these indie games do. Spoiler, the grandmother was dead all along oh dear, I forgot the name of the game. The grandmother went on the the grandmother went on the death train, and it was a LucasArts game. Oh, I'm not going to focus on that. Anyway, they're also going whole heart on the on Star Wars. They're going to be doing this was introduced by Jade Raymond, by the way. They're going to be a new, quote unquote, a new installment of Star Wars Battlefront, which I'm guessing to mean they don't want it to be a casual game anymore. As a casual game, it didn't last long. So there's that. And Visceral Games is coming out with a Star Wars game, and I'd love to see what that is. I'm wondering if it's going to be Star Wars 1313. There was too much content in that game that was developed to just drop it out of nowhere. Sorry, my arm's getting tired here. Respawn is making a third-person platformer for Star Wars game 2. And Star Wars, they tease some of the stuff that's coming up for Battlefront, like Cloud City. One thing I noticed about Star Wars is that they showed Criterion Games as a developer working on a Star Wars game. Now, for those who don't know, Criterion is the one who made Burnout and Burnout Paradise and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, are they making a Star Wars racing game? And I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's going to be pod racing again. So it'll be interesting to see. They also showed off Battlefield 1, which is the big game they're pimping. As a matter of fact, they had rows and rows and rows of Battlefield 1 PCs to show it. And it's going to have, they have what they call boss vehicles, like those. I'm pretty sure you've seen the trailer by now. They're going to have these Zeppelins and people riding horseback with swords. Remember, this is 1910, so they still had that. Although I will say this, there was one guy in World War II who ran into war with a Scottish broadsword. He was the last person to ever bring a sword into a major battle. It'll also have weather effects, which look really neat. Then I went to Bethesda, and oh dear God, I mean, Adam Sessler and that other woman, it just went on forever and ever and ever and ever. I just wanted to say, make it stop. I don't care about these two. As a matter of fact, people started horsing around behind them, and they had to change the angle and all that. Now, the first thing they showed off was Elder Scrolls Legends, which I'm actually interested in. It looks like a nice card, and it has a single-player campaign. I mean, it's basically Magic the Gathering, so it's going to have a multiplayer focus, but it does have a single-player campaign. And, I really liked Magic the Gathering Duels of Planeswalkers, the old Microprose game that was worked on with help with Sid Meier. And, of course, Bethesda showed off a lot of Dishonored 2. And my podcast co-host, TJ Denzer, is really hyped up for Dishonored 2. I can give or take. I just want a good Thief game, and we did not get one. The other big announcement there is they're bringing back Quake Champions, which I'm interpreting as Quake Overwatch, Overwatch Quake style, in which you can have different heroes, and they said it's intended for esports. It's going to be locked, has locked frame rates. It's going to run at 120 megahertz. They're really going after it. And of course, the other big announcement was Prey, and it looks nothing like the first Prey, and it's not Prey 2. Which is a shame, because I like the concept of what they were showing in Prey 2. But it was a very strange trailer, and no one could guess what the heck they were showing until the very end when they said Prey, because it is that different. And I'm pretty sure you've seen the trailers as well. And of course, their staples are getting a lot of stuff, like Fallout 4, getting contraptions like pistons and stuff like that. Or am I thinking of Minecraft? You're also getting the Build Your Own Vault module, and Nuka World, which is coming in August, which is going to be basically Disneyland in the post-apocalypse. There's new Fallout Shelter content coming, and finally, PC players are going to finally be able to play it. Finally, you can have mods for Fallout 4, yes, but also console mods. PC to console transfer mods to Skyrim, which is going to get a lot of people excited. And then they talked about Bethesda VR. I don't really have that big. It's not a big thing for me. I don't really care about VR that much. Although it's the thing that everybody's stressing, because, hardware manufacturers get a lot of money, Graphic card people want VR to take off. Of course, the VR people want to take off, but mostly the graphic card, because you have to bump up your PC just to use it. And then Microsoft yesterday. And the very first thing they showed was the Microsoft Xbox. When I was saying Microsoft, yeah, well, actually it is the Xbox One S for $290 coming this August. It's a slim form Xbox, and it's going to allow 4K video, which is nice because I have a 4K TV, and it upscales everything. Now that's not to say it's going to do 4K graphics, but at least if you have 4K content on YouTube, it'll allow you to see that native in 4K, which is okay. I mean, I shoot some videos in 4K. I mean, you can see some bunch of videos that I shot in 4K that are just basically environmental shots. So you have that. Next, of course, Gears of War 4. And the big initiative is the Xbox Play Anywhere. They made a big thing about that. Games for the Xbox One, which are listed as Play Anywhere, is basically cross-buy. If you buy it for the Xbox One, it's ready for Windows 10, and vice versa. The thing about that is that now Sony's had something like that as well, with cross-buy with the Vita and all that stuff. But we're talking about a PC, an entirely different kind of platform, right? And it's nice to see that Microsoft is finally figuring out that people want crossplay. I mean, like I said, they've had Final Fantasy XIV crossplay between PC and PS4 for a long time, and Microsoft didn't want any part of that, even though they could have. And now they're finally going to do it. They're going to do crossplay between Xbox One and PC for almost every game that has the Xbox Play Anywhere on it. But again, it's nice to have both. And I think that's the one way they're going to grow Windows 10, because the console holder has a huge base. So if you have that version of the game on your PC, and conversely, PC owners may say, hey, you know what, I can get what's it called? If I get an Xbox One, I can play that. Also cross achievements, which sort of ruins it for me, because I remember buying Batman Arkham Asylum. I rented it for the Xbox 360, got the achievements on there. Then I bought the PC version and got the PC achievements. So I doubled up on achievements on two different platforms of the same game, and it's still in my achievements list. And I was sitting next to a lot of Killer Instinct fans, and they got really hyped up when General Ram was announced as a new fighter for the game. It's okay. Forza Horizon 3 looks really promising. It takes place in Australia. And again, crossplay across 3 platforms. And, I haven't tried Forza Horizon. As a matter of fact, I haven't played Forza in any way since Forza 4, and that was a rental. And, maybe I don't have a racing game on my PC. It's not that I'm not a fan of racing. I tend towards the Burnout type of things, and Blur. And that's a game I really want to see, by the way, another Blur. Unfortunately, it's not coming out anytime soon. The other thing that really was boring for me was both Final Fantasy 15 and Scalebound had the same, we're fighting a giant creature and we have to take it out piece by piece by piece. I'm bored of that, please. I mean, Shadow of the Colossus was a one-time thing. You don't have to do it all the time. Gears of War made it tired. I mean, not Gears of War. God of War made it tired, and now, no, it's, The other thing that they showed off that a lot of people got excited about was the colored controllers. I mean, Nintendo's been doing it for years and years and years, but now you can customize your own colored controller with any two tones if you want, and also it allows you to inscribe on it. They also showed off the single player, the standalone version of Gwent. I don't play The Witcher, so but a lot of people apparently really want to play the card game. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they made a standalone mini game of Pazak, which is that's a much simpler game, but still, I mean, if I remember correctly, the Fable Pub something, I forgot what it was called. It was Fable Pub something, which allowed you to do the pub games before Fable 2 was released. A lot of people enjoyed playing that, so there is a room for these casino type games. Now, they also showed off Halo Wars 2. I never played the original Halo Wars, so I'm not that much of a RTS fan. The last great RTS that I played was Kohan Immortal Sovereigns. People got excited over Tekken 7. Okay. Like I said, the only games that I really enjoyed that were fighting games were Soul Calibur and the latest version, and Dead Rising, not Dead Rising, Dead or Alive. But I don't play that anymore. Speaking of Dead Rising 4 was shown, and yeah, they made a big deal about Frank, but a lot of people, and I knew this before, that Dead Rising 4 was going to be essentially a remake of Dead Rising 1, but with 4-player co-op. And they didn't show any of the co-op. They did show some of the again, sorry about that. They did show some of the locations, and here's the thing. You'll notice that they are the locations from Dead Rising 1. And they didn't show the co-op, which is unfortunate, because I wanted to see if other characters from the series, like Chuck, if Chuck is going to join him. And Frank, he's covered wars. So the one real surprise of the Microsoft presentation was We Happy Few, which seems like a cross between 1984 and BioShock, in which you have to take your happy peels. And you know how the little sisters see the world in... They see the world as this kindly coated sort of thing. Well, that's what happens when you don't take your happy peel. That veneer is stripped away, and suddenly that pinata you've been beating is actually a dead rat. And you're not in a cozy, futuristic society, but you're in some sort of Fallout vault, I also went to the PC Gaming Show, and it was nice to see Cliff Bleszinski, Cliffy B, and Warren Spector there. I got to see a little bit of gameplay from Tyranny, which is something I'm really looking forward to. So, yeah, I mean, now like I said, I'm in the media room at E3, and the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be running over, and fortunately it's right in front, to Civilization 6, because that's the game I'm most interested in covering right now, this E3. I will be shooting from the show floor, and I will be, a lot less boring stuff than the E3 media room, which is a hotbed of activity right now, as you can see. So anyways, I will be talking to you later, live, and happy E3. And the next video I'm going to be posting is going to be my reactions to Civilization 6.